As a quick note at the beginning of this story, folklore is vast and varied, and not necessarily every tribe gives the same tale. I am trying to amalgamate as many stories as I can into something that makes a general sense. However, you might have heard a different version before this. Thanks for listening and thanks for understanding. In the beginning of the world, according to the Native American tribes of Alaska, everything was dark. The sky was empty of even the faintest lights, for the sun, moon, and stars, while having been created, had never been placed in the sky. Humanity, animals, plants, everything lived in a perpetual darkness, scavenging for anything that they could find. They had heard stories of something called light, which allowed them to see. But it seemed that this was how things would be for all eternity, a perpetual, unending darkness. Raven also lived in this world. Now, Raven is a strange figure, particularly in the Northwestern stories. Some tales claim that he himself was the creator of the land. He painted the birds and formed humans and animals. Others claim that, like the other animals, he was just present after the creation. Regardless, he was a trickster, a glutton, and an opportunist, but he was also an inventor. He was one who helped to solve problems, and he was fond of humanity. Perhaps he liked their inventiveness, or saw some shade of himself in them. He liked that, even in this harsh world and darkness, humans had managed to build something of a world and a society. Maybe he just always liked the fact that humans left scraps for him to enjoy. Regardless, Raven always remained close to the camps of humans, so he heard their woes and their trials, and he knew that while they were struggling and persevering, eventually they would starve. Rumor came to him that there was a chief, or maybe the White Bear, who lived close to the Great River, who had possession of the sun, the moon, and the stars, items through which this thing called light was meant to enter the world. It was there, in his house, that he kept the valuable items, locked in a cedar box to give light only to himself and to his daughter. How Raven knew where to fly, I don't know, but it seems that he made it to the river where the White Bear lived. He lived in a plank house that was easy to find. While, like most plank houses, there were no windows to let in the cold, the light streamed from every piece and part that could be considered to have a hole in it. Raven waited for some time, listening and watching the shadows and shapes of two figures through the pinpricks of light that moved back and forth. There was no way in or out, and any creature who got too close was subject to the wrath of the White Bear. But Raven was clever as well as patient, so he waited. Finally, after some time, the door to the outdoors opened, and the White Bear's daughter stepped out, holding a pot to get water from the river. She stumbled slightly in the dark, as one not used to it, but made her way to the water's edge, gathering up as much as she could into the pot for that evening. Raven knew his time had come. Now, Raven in the stories is a shapeshifter. Often he took the form of a great raven, but sometimes he appeared as a handsome young man. He wasn't limited to those two shapes either. With a simple motion, Raven changed. Some stories claimed he turned into a pine needle. Others say it was a feather. Some a mote of dust. But the stories always agree on one thing. He became something small, so that in a moment of thirst, the daughter of the White Bear drank from her urn, and immediately the object had entered her body. The daughter of the White Bear went about her business, thinking nothing of whatever had been in the water she drank. Yet, somehow, she found herself with child. There was no explanation, though the White Bear suspected that she had a lover who, even now, she refused to name. Still, the White Bear does not, from the stories, seem unhappy. Rather, he seemed excited at the prospect of a grandchild. In 9 months, the daughter of the White Bear bore a son. The child was quiet as an infant, and seemed so bright that the White Bear couldn't wait until he was older and could be taught many things. When the child could speak, suddenly he pointed to the box of light and started to wail, reaching for it and screaming for light, light. At first, the White Bear refused. After all, the things in the box were valuable. The child could damage it. But this only made the boy cry louder and louder, begging more and more to hold the light. Finally, the white bear, a doting grandfather, gave the boy the cedar box. The second he felt the wood, the boy vanished into a storm of feathers. The white bear and his daughter couldn't see, but the moment the world cleared, he was able to see the form of Raven, holding the box in his talons and letting out a loud, croaking laugh as he suddenly shot up the chimney into the night, holding all the light of the world. The white bear roared in fury, summoning all his power. He took off out of the door after it, casting spell on spell to shoot down Raven from his place. The raven did not retaliate, but rather kept flying, even as hits were landed and the box opened, allowing tiny points of light to scatter around him, shining with a faint light that, nevertheless, grew brighter and brighter to allow him to see and weave through the trees to avoid the white bear. Another spell hit, and this time a large circle of light escaped from the box, hanging in the sky with the smaller lights, and allowing a stronger light that waxed and waned, gaining more and less power constantly. But even with those lights, the bear continued to chase until, finally, Raven reached the human village, where all of mankind dwelt and stood in the center. "I have brought you light," Raven boasted. "You who have slaved for your meals, I stole the lights meant to be in the sky. As proof, look up and see the lights I allowed to escape even as the bear tried to take them from me." However, the people didn't believe him. "Show us this great thing you call light," they said. "Give it to us that we will believe you. Perhaps now there are great pinpricks in the sky, but prove that you made them." Raven wasn't one to back down from any challenge, so he brought out the box and opened it wide, allowing the last and greatest light of all to shoot up into the sky, taking on such a brightness that all things were illuminated. Color, plants, animals, all things were given this new bright light and were able to see for the first time. However, the humans who had mocked him now screamed in terror and fled, many leaving the camp that they had made. Some vanished over the ocean, while others through the country, till they were scattered, never to see each other again. This is how human beings became separated. Yet, even then, Raven still follows and watches over humans, and the sun and moon illuminate the sky, proving Raven's great deed. The white bear had stopped at the edge of the camp where he saw his last treasure stolen and gone, and then and there he vowed his hatred and his vengeance. If Raven had acted to save humanity, then he would take his vengeance on the thing Raven loves so much. It is why some say to this day there is no animal that hunts a human other than himself. He will, from now on, and so will his children and grandchildren. They will hate and hunt the creatures that Raven stole light for and who had benefited the most from its glow. Of course, Raven did not escape untouched. While once, rumor has it, that his feathers were pure white, Raven was so coated in ash from the fire and scorched from the light that he and all his descendants were black from head to toe, as a reminder of the risk he had taken. Raven is one of many tricksters that has a place in Native American legends. Sometimes the stories follow Jackrabbit. Other times they focus on deer or coyote. These tricksters are dangerous characters. Some legends say that when all things light and dark, good and evil, sit at table, Coyote will sit between them, and Raven is close by. If encountered, they can cause a cruel fate to those they meet, but they are also helpers, creators, innovators, and seem truly fond of humans. That's how tricksters are across societies. Figures that exist on the fringes of the world, mocking and punishing the proud and the greedy, but also being those things themselves, and often losing out because of it. You can't really call them good or evil. Or maybe you can say that, of all the figures in folklore, the trickster is the most like us, the one who can be a mixture of both. Raven is a strange figure, like all tricksters. Some stories say that he brought death into the world, while others tell of other favors, including begging the Great Spirit for land during the flood. So, what happened to Raven in the end? Was he fed, loved, given a princess to wed? After all, many tricksters, like the famous Jack, have been rewarded so. No. Raven, as Raven always does, remained with humans and ate their food and enjoyed their fires and their inventiveness. But before too long, Raven wandered, looking for new adventures and more mischief to get into. Because, in the end, Raven is never done or satisfied. He always seeks new changes and new challenges. Sometimes he'll lose. Sometimes he'll win. Sometimes her adventures are how he was fed and did nothing. Perhaps, in a way, that continuation in our stories and memories and civilization was Raven's reward. He aids humans, and in return, he is able to remain with us, scavenge off of us, and continue his existence on the fringe of civilization in our memories for all of time. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to like, comment, or subscribe if you've really enjoyed it, and tell me what you've liked, or maybe even some of the stories you might want me to go over in this channel. And again, thanks for listening.